Sairam. Hi, smart English students, fluent speaking students. Welcome to today's class on the most important subject of taking good notes, good handwritten notes. Note making, one of the most important classes you will ever take. This will be useful for the rest of your career in education. So let's go into it. What really is note making? Note making is an important skill which can help you in many, many ways. We do not and cannot usually remember everything. Do you remember every word from every lesson that you hear and you read? It is very hard to do so. Notes will help you store important information. Some great minds, like Vivekananda, they could remember everything, but we are somewhere in the range of 10 to 95% of what we hear and read, we remember. So note making helps us to remember more. Note making, what is it? It's a brief presentation of the main ideas and supporting ideas of a text in a point form. You must be very careful that the notes you take are easy to understand. And the notes you cannot understand after a few months are not good notes, a waste of time. Then I want to let you know that there are some points to remember about taking notes. First of all, you need a correct understanding of the text. So as you take the notes, make sure you understand what the notes are you are writing. Your notes must be brief, just points, not full sentences. And the main idea and related ideas are usually numbered, A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go into an example in a little while. And then you use abbreviations. Recognizable abbreviations are very nice to use, like GOVT for government. Instead of writing out the whole word, you just GOVT. And let me tell you a personal story about notes. I graduated from Purdue in civil engineering. I did not take many notes during my undergraduate college, but when I got into law school, I had gotten married right after college, and I had a baby, and I was working a full-time job. And at my job, they wanted me to go to law school. Well, law school, we have these big, long cases, and you have to know the main points in these cases. So I realized I can't read these cases all the time. I have to take notes, read it one time, and write the notes. In fact, one of our students was such a good note taker. He would make the notes on the classes, on the cases, and he would sell them to us. He wasn't very generous, but he sold us these notes called cans. And he was making so much money selling good notes. So that's why, one of the reasons for taking good notes. I had to learn the hard way. And when I took these good notes and studied these cans, I did very well in law school. So let me go through a couple more points that you should remember. It should be in a logical order. You should have your main point and then the subpoints underneath it. And then don't put phrases and examples, all of those things. Once you see the main point, you will automatically remember what the point is. You don't need examples or quotations. And as you write these notes, put a title. In fact, for every class, say English class, you should have a separate notebook. Get a notebook that you can use for every English class to take your good notes. In fact, now in the NIOS program, which is a worldwide program, on every page, on every text page, they have a place for notes. That's how important note-taking is. Every page of what you learn, they have a place for your notes. So let's go to some more points before we start our presentation. I took good notes on this because it's so important. First of all, we learn in class how to focus. It's very easy to get in class and you'll hear noise outside and you're thinking about a cricket game, but we want to focus on what the teacher is actually telling you. So it helps you to focus when you're taking handwritten notes. And you better understand the main concepts. As you're writing, your understanding improves. Since this book was created, there's been many years of studies going on about note making. And they found out that you retain 20 to 40% more information by taking handwritten notes. Your comprehension improves. You remember what you see and hear. And then after the class, what are notes good for? Efficient and concise notes can save you time, energy, and get rid of confusion. Okay? And then you use your notes to study for the final exam. We're going to get tested on this class. And I'll show you what we're going to get tested on. So there's different forms of notes, and you can make up your own form, but they teach two forms in this class, and I will show them to you. And some people think, oh, I'll just take the notes in my on my laptop or on my computer later on. Well, I want to tell you the advantages of using your own handwriting. First of all, it's easy to create diagrams, okay, and flows and illustrations. If you're writing with your hand, you can do all these illustrations. Sometimes it's better for visual learners. Learning happens in three ways. Visually, we see something and we learn it. Sometimes we hear something and we learn it through our ears. Sometimes we touch something. That's called kinesthetics, and we learn by what we touch. And usually we learn by a mixture of all three methods, but we want to make sure that we have good notes and write them out, and then we get the advantage of all three methods. It provides more focus for the students prone to digital distraction. It's been proven now, because of all these iPads and phones and cell phones, that some people actually, they get distracted. When they read it in a book, they get much more comprehension. The digital notes sometimes distract you. It's a process that's happening now. And you can better comprehend and retain these ideas that are presented to you, especially for concepts. Also, it helps your organizational skills. And everybody likes to be better organized. The more organized you are, you use the one-touch rule. You have a piece of paper, you put it where it belongs. You don't put it somewhere and then go back and get it and put it in another place. Organization is the name of the game. We are in an information age right now. So much information is there, and good notes will help you organize. In fact, there is a work that was just recently written called "The Pen is Mightier Than the Keyboard." And it's a whole article about how good it is to take handwritten notes. So now that I've given you a little bit of background, let's go to our class itself. Okay, note making. You can see here we have reduce, reuse, recycle. So many advantages are happening when you take good notes, okay? Note making is a useful skill. It involves two stages. You can break these into more stages, but two main stages. Reading and comprehending. As soon as you read it, or as soon as you hear it, you comprehend it. You go, okay, that's what he's saying. This color of the car is red. You see the car, you see it's a red color. You comprehend it. Okay, and then you identify the main points and the subpoints, keeping the purpose of the reading in mind. Okay, we shall now look at two formats for making good notes from your classes. Exercise. They're going to give us a passage now. We're going to read the passage, and then we'll use one of the formats for taking notes. So let's read the passage together. Soil. This whole passage is about soil. Soil is your garden's natural medium. So it is vital for the health and successful growth of your plants and crops that you keep it well maintained. So that's the main part of our subject is going to be soil. And then we'll put subpoints underneath it. Soil is basically rock that has been ground down by the effects of weather over a long period of time and made fertile by decayed organic matter. What is organic matter? It's derived from dead insects and leaves. There are hundreds of different types of soil, but they can be broadly classified as sandy, loamy, or clay. There's three major distinctions. So they're giving you these three subpoints. So I'll show you how to put those in a logical order. Referring to their basic texture, this is the way they feel. It is texture that affects the drainage, aeration, and nutrient content of the soil, and you may have to take steps to improve on this in certain types of soil. Certain types of soil that have no organic matter, we're going to have to put some organic material into it. Let's go on. So what do? We take a handful of soil and run a small amount between your fingertips. This is how you figure out what the texture is. So between your forefinger and your thumb. Although all soils contain various proportions of sand, silt, and clay, you'll readily be able to tell the difference between the main types. Sandy soil feels gritty when dry, and even when it's wet, you know it's sand. You've been on the beach, you know what sand feels like. And even if the wet particles stick together, it still feels gritty. Loamy, on the other hand, can be molded in the hand when moist. You can make a nice little god out of it, or make a box or make a ball out of it. But the particles aren't at all sticky and gritty. And they're fairly loose when they're dry. When you have a dry loam, you can scatter it around. The clay soil, is sticky and smooth when wet, but becomes polished when rubbed and baked hard when dry. So we have that clay soil is sticky and smooth, and then you can put it together, and when it dries, it stays in one piece. So now that we've read the hundreds of words, let's make a nice outline. The first kind of format we're going to use is called the outline format. Here we are. So, first thing we put soil. And the main point is the natural garden's growth and medium. This is the top of our outline. And underneath the outline, we say, what? What is soil? So we go back and we say how it's formed. We can see that it's formed by ground rock. These big mountains between rain and snow and weather and a lot of people walking on it, it gets ground down to little pieces. And then these ground pieces of rock are made fertile by insects and by plants that grow in them, dead organic material. So that's the first part of our outline. Then we have texture. The article goes on, the passage goes on, and it talks about texture and how we feel the texture, So we classify the texture. Remember, we rubbed it in our fingers, and we saw that it was either sandy, gritty, loamy, nice, but it falls apart when it's not wet, or clay, which does not fall apart when it's wet. But we put the classifications here. We had the beach here showing the sand, It's all gritty. And we know that loamy will fall apart if it's not wet, and we know that clay will stay together and even dry hard. Then, under texture, we go back into our passage and we see the texture has an effect. What does it have an effect on? So we have A, classification, we have B, effect on. It affects the drainage, the way the water goes through. Sand, it sinks right in. Loam, it moves over a little bit. On clay, the water will just go right over the top. Aeration, it's very easy to aerate sand. The air goes right through it. And loam, when it's not real wet, the air goes right through it. But clay is very poor on aeration. And then 3, nutrient content. All 3 of these could have a certain amount of dead insects and fermented material, fermented plants. So that's another distinction. So let's go on. Also, at the end of our passage, they talk about distinction between the soil types and how you can distinguish between them. When dry, the sandy feels gritty. We've talked about that. Wet or dry, it's going to be gritty. Now, loamy is fairly loose when it's dry, and clay is polished and rubbed and baked. You can see here we have a whole field of clay, and it's gotten very hard and starting to crack now. And you can polish this up. You can make a floor out of it. So that's the outline that we've discussed, and that's called the outline format. You put the main point, and then underneath it you put the subpoints. And this is an easy way to do a format of doing your notes. So we've taken hundreds of words, all right, and reduced them into an outline of 50 words, less than 50 words. So this is the main form that you'll probably use. You'll use some kind of variation of this outline format. Now the book goes on, and it gives us a second passage to read. So let's read this passage, and we'll do the second format. The defense mechanism of the human body is a gift of nature provided to human beings. The power of our body to fight against disease producing agents is known as the defense mechanism, and it depends upon various factors, which can be categorized mainly into two types: common factors and special factors. So we have here a healthy diet, coconut, and they're going to be talking about these special factors as we go on in our passage here. Amongst the common factors, most important is the health of human beings. We all know that if we have good health, our body automatically remains protected against diseases. Even this COVID-19 disease, if your body's healthy, you're not going to be affected by it. Even if you get some of the COVID-19, your body will just fight it off. You'll have no symptoms. We all know that if you have good health, our body automatically remains protected against diseases. And then it gives you some hints here. For keeping good health, one should have a nutritious, balanced diet. Okay? Plenty of fruits, some nice coconuts once in a while. For keeping good health, one should have nutritious, balanced diets. A balanced diet is one that contains carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins in proper proportionate amounts. Amongst the special factors, see the first paragraph, they talked about the common factors. Now they're talking about special factors. Among the special factors is the skin. We all have a lot of skin, and the skin is our number one defense mechanism, which can cause diseases through cuts and abrasions. If your skin is in proper shape, okay, and it's not cut or abrased, you have no problem. But if you get a cut or an abrasion, you've got to be very careful. Therefore, a cut or an abrasion should never be left open. In case there's no bandage or medicine available, it may be covered with a clean cloth. Now here we have a picture of a farm worker who cut his hand when he was working. He didn't even have a clean cloth, but he wrapped it right away with a cloth. He knew that if you don't cover it, you're going to get germs and bacteria to come into that area. So until he can go to a doctor or go back home and get it cleaned properly, he just wrapped his hand in a cloth. So this passage can be diametrically expressed. So this is the second format called charting or flowing or diametrically expressed. And this is what they will show you on your test. They love these diagrams. They'll show you the diagrams and they want you to fill in the blank spaces. So the above passage can be diametrically expressed in several ways, depending on the needs of the user. Look at the following two notes of the above passage and complete them by filling in the blank boxes. Try to express the passage diametrically in your own way. So let's see what they've done. Oh, so they've shown defense mechanism of the body can be defined as depends on. So they break it up into two columns right away. And you have here defense mechanism, power of the body to fight against, depends upon. And then the depends upon is already categorized into two major flows. So what they've done is they've taken the whole hundreds of words and put it into a simple diagram. And this is what they love to do on the test. They love to give the diagram and they want you to fill in the spaces. So I'm a nice teacher, so I filled them in for you. All right? Defense mechanism of the body can be defined as power of the body to fight against what? Disease-producing agents. And what does this depend upon? So we go into the main part of the talk. It depends upon various factors, okay? And these factors are categorized into what? Common factors and special factors, all right? So very easily, we have two major divisions. What are the common factors? Health of human beings. That's the number one, a common factor. And how do you have health? A nutritious, balanced diet. That's the way you get health. But what's a nutritious, balanced diet? So it shows you right here. It's carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and vitamins. A mixture of all four. You get everything. And the body, once it gets the right nutrients, it can take care of itself. But you got to give it the right nutrients. So we've finished up that section, which is the common factors. Then we go to the special factors. And what was the number one special factor that they talked about in this article, in this passage? Was the skin. So we have skin under special factors, all right? And so what happens to the skin? If the skin is whole and intact and not bruised or cut, it's very powerful. It keeps all disease away from you, all bacteria. So what can cause disease? You list this out. What can cause disease? And you put in those two boxes cuts and abrasions, all right? And if you get a cut or abrasion, what should you do? It should be covered with what? A clean cloth, but any cloth to keep away the bacteria until you can get a proper bandage. In the case there is no availability of a proper bandage or medicines. If you put medicine on it, okay, that can protect you, or a clean bandage. So we've summarized this whole passage, okay, hundreds and hundreds of words, into a flow diagram, a diagrammatic diagram. And this is what you'll have on your exam. They will show you the defense mechanisms of the body, and they will have you fill out from the passage these particular blank spaces. Now they also showed us another way to do it, okay? They don't want you to be locked into any one specific way. So you can do the diagram or the flow chart in a number of ways, depending on what feels right and what kind of paper you have or a margin you have to take your notes. So what they've done in this case, they've put defense mechanism of the human body towards the top, but not at the very top. And it wants to have you fill in the blank spaces, okay? So what can be defined as the defense mechanism of the human body? You go back to your notes and you see the power of the body to fight against disease-producing agents. I put that in for you. So what we've done is we've filled in this blank spot, okay, with the power of the body to fight against disease-producing agents. So let's go back here. Defense mechanism of the human body. It's a gift of what? It's a gift of nature. This is the whole thing about nature. It provides you with what you need, okay? So then we go underneath it and we basically do what was done in the other flow chart. We show that the defense mechanism of the body depends on various factors. And then we go into the two flows that come of various factors. There's the common factors, there's the special factors. So under common factors, we fill in the blank. What is most important is the health of the human person. How do we get health? We get health by having a nutritious, balanced diet. And then we go to special factors. What's the factor they talk about? They talk about disease that comes from the skin not being whole, with an abrasion or with a cut. We have to cover that cut. We've got to put some fake skin on there. We've got to put some medicine on there. We've got to put a bandage. Even a dirty cloth is better than nothing, but a clean cloth or a bandage is the best. So this is what they've done for this passage. So now we've gone through two formats of showing how to take notes. We've got the format of taking an outline or the format of a flow chart using a diagrammatical thing. So what are the takeaways? The takeaway from this is, from handwriting notes, there are 5 major benefits. Major benefits. You better focus yourself. You can get great focus on the subject. You're not going to waste your time. You're in class already. You're reading the assignment. You might as well focus on what you're doing. And if you take notes with your own handwriting, it engages your heart and you get fully involved. Second, better memory. As you write these things down, 20 to 40% better memory happens just by engaging yourself in handwritten notes. You get better understanding of the concepts. The professor's telling you a concept. When you write it down in your own handwriting, you get a much better understanding of that concept. And it also helps your organizational skills. You learn how to organize. Organize is the name of the game. We have to organize all this material. And one of the most important things for students, you nice fluent speaking English students, it saves time. It saves time in your class and after the class. During the class, boom, 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 you go down all the points, you write them down, and then you have a good idea about it. And then after it, you have these nice notes to study for your test. So these are the 5 major benefits of taking handwritten notes in good handwriting. So another thing I want to tell you is that when your heart is engaged, you have more empathy for the material you're working on. Everybody loves to get a handwritten letter or a note because they know that you have written it out and you care about them 100%. You're not thinking about something else when you're writing out something, especially a note to a friend. So now I'd like to give you some homework. In your book, there are 3 more passages that are given to you. And there's 2 examples of the diagram form. That is the passage about the chimpanzee, okay, and the passage about coffee. So I want you to read those, and in your book you'll see the diagrammatic blanks that are there. So all you have to do is fill in the blanks and then write down the blanks in a logical order and send them to me so I can grade them. The third passage is they want an example of an outline format. And that's a passage about Aborigines. It's a small passage, and it just wants the main point and what these Aborigines can do. So please send those points to me, and I will look at them. So do your homework, and we will see you next class. Thank you very much. Om Sai Ram.